I'm Maria, a 30-year-old nurse. I got married 2 years ago. Ken, my husband, is a salesman and a great communicator unlike me. I'm 7 months pregnant right now. My parents have already passed away due to accidents and illnesses, so I can't rely on them. However, my mother-in-law cared for me. It's my first baby, so of course I'm full of anxiety. But I have a husband and a mother-in-law I can trust, so I believed I can safely deliver my baby. Or that's what I thought. One day, I had an upset stomach at work and had to leave early. I walked slowly while trying not to strain my body as much as possible. I noticed something strange when I finally arrived in front of my apartment. My husband's car was parked in its usual place, although he was supposed to be at work. I wondered if he was stopping by during business hours. As I stood in front of the apartment, I felt a strange and inexpressive feeling. Maybe this is what a woman's intuition was. With my heart beating and my head calmer than usual, I unlocked the door with my phone in my hand, careful to not make a sound. I quietly walked through the front door and made my way into the bedroom. On our precious bed were a man and a woman completely naked. Before they noticed, I point my phone to take a picture. Snap! The shutter sounded, but the two were so absorbed in the moment, they did not notice a thing. After that, I picked up my husband's phone that was still in the living room and I left the house. As soon as I closed the door to our apartment, I started to sweat and my stomach ached. I used the little strength I had left to call my best friend Nadia. Nadia answered the phone and rushed over to me right away. She let me rest at her house for a while. When she heard what had happened, she was extremely upset. She checked my husband's phone while pouring me a hot drink. I don't know if he's just being careless or if he's taking advantage of me, but the phone with no passcode was full of evidence of the affair. I was shocked, but Nadia tells me something even more shocking. The other woman looks like Amy. What? Amy. That was the name of a girl in college 1 year under us. She was famous for her beautiful style, round eyes, and white skin. For the opposite sex, she was a girl you wanted to protect. To the same sex, she was a girl you would never want your boyfriend to meet. That's right. Amy was the type of woman who wants other people's boyfriends. My friend was also a victim, and I remember comforting her. We never saw each other after graduation. Before I found out I was pregnant, I ran into Amy at my favorite cafe. I was with my husband at the time, and Amy was with another man, so I assumed it would just be brief. But she sat down next to us and spoke to my husband and I like we were friends. That was all though. It's not like my husband and Amy exchanged numbers. It would be understandable if she was taking boyfriends, but I didn't think she would go for a married man. When? How? And why? Many questions and despair swirled in my head. Nadia gathered up all the evidence of my husband's affair while I had those thoughts. It may be because of the unexpected surprise that my stomach was still hurting. So I asked Nadia to accompany me to see my doctor. As I thought, the situation was not good and I had to be hospitalized. Nadia offered to prepare me for the hospitalization. But she has a family too, so I couldn't rely on her any longer. I have my husband's phone, so I decided to contact my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law was extremely surprised to hear that I was suddenly hospitalized and rushed where I was. Because of the suddenness of the hospitalization, she helped me get ready as soon as possible. That was supposed to be the only reason I called my mother-in-law. But I was so happy and relieved to see how kind my mother-in-law was, and I ended up telling her about what had happened today. I immediately felt sorry for my mother-in-law as her face froze in surprise at her son's affair. That was when her warm hands gently wrapped my cold hand. You only think about protecting your baby from now. I will take care of the rest." I can't help but cry at her words. I am so glad I trusted my mother-in-law. In my weakened state, I sincerely believed that. If I could go back to that time, I would hold myself back. I didn't know it at the time that she was my enemy. My stay in the hospital lasted a long time. During that time, my husband never came to visit me. My son is at home, feeling sorry for himself. He doesn't know what he should say to you. My mother-in-law was always apologetic when she reported this to me. Although I was anxious about not seeing my husband's face, I felt somewhat relieved. To say the truth, I didn't want to see him right now. I didn't want to accept any excuses or apologies for the affair. All I wanted was to pray for the safety of my baby. The baby made it until 36 weeks, and he was born. It was a healthy baby boy. I named him Kevin. My mother-in-law was holding newborn Kevin with tears in her eyes. As I lay my aching body on the bed, I'm filled with a warm feeling. Now that I'm so happy, I might be able to meet my husband. But what broke my peaceful heart was my mother-in-law's unexpected words. "Now, you can forget all the bad things that had happened." What? I didn't understand what she meant. My eyes widened in surprise, but my mother-in-law continued talking without caring. "About my son, he didn't mean to offend you. When you're pregnant, he doesn't get as much skinship with you, you know. I think he was lonely. And now that the baby is here, I'm sure you can forgive him." She goes on, as if it was my fault that he cheated on me, and it was only natural that I should accept my husband's affair. Though bewildered by my mother-in-law's sudden change inside, I resisted. "But my husband cheated on me while I was pregnant with our son." "Divorce is not an option for you. You don't even have a home to go back to. No matter how good you are at your job, children often get sick. How can a woman raise a child by herself? A child is small." I had no choice but to rely on my mother-in-law while I was in the hospital, so I had no words to fight back. "I'm so glad you were able to bring this baby safely into the world. And it's a boy too. Don't worry, he's going to be the heir of our family, so I will take good care of him. My son is going to be a great father." My baby is crying in my mother-in-law's arms, as if he was held hostage. "It's okay. A child can make you forget everything." My mother-in-law is smiling on the outside, but her eyes were not smiling at all. It was horrifying, like looking at a devil. I didn't sleep a wink that night. My body is tired. My head is a mess. The photos of the affair I saved on my phone were gone before I knew it. My mother-in-law must have deleted them while I was giving birth. My mother-in-law was not on my side from the beginning. She was just trying to encourage me to have a healthy baby boy. My heart, which had been so happy, was now in despair. Just thinking about the future brought tears to my eyes. The person who saved me was my only living relative, my older brother. He came to see the baby with his family. They noticed immediately that something was wrong. When I told them what had happened, my brother's wife was more furious than my brother. She said she wished I had told her sooner. I couldn't hold back my tears when she started to cry, and we ended up crying as we hugged each other. We were in a private room, so it didn't bother others in the hospital. But the nurse who came in to check on the baby was obviously surprised. I thought I couldn't rely on my brother because he has a family of his own. However, my brother and his wife promised me that if I wanted to get divorced, they would be willing to help. So did my best friend Nadia, who came to visit me later. I made up my mind. My husband, whom I loved, and my mother-in-law whom I trusted were just an illusion. Staying with people like that, who are nothing more than assholes, would be a bad influence on my son. He would never grow up to be a decent man. He might have a hard time. He might even be lonely. But it's still better than being with those people. I will spend the rest of my life to make my son happy. After I made up my mind, I worked out a plan to get a divorce with my brother's family and Nadia. And then, the day I was discharged from the hospital, I went back to my apartment with my husband, who came to pick me up. There was no way I wanted to go home. But no matter how determined I was, my postpartum body didn't work the way I wanted to. My body had been in the hospital for nearly 2 months due to the threatened premature delivery, so my muscle had been deteriorated. I'd rather not have your body fall apart by pushing too hard. It's better to wait until we gather enough evidence and act after recovery. This was the advice from my brother's wife, who had 2 children of her own. My husband, who had not shown his face for the past 2 months, arrived with a big smile on his face. No sign of remorse or emaciation at all. Rather, his face was rounder than before. I'm guessing my mother-in-law has told him, "Maria has forgiven you. Once the baby is born, he will be ours," or some bullshit like that. "I'm sorry, I'm not in contact with Amy anymore. Don't worry. My little Kevin, it's your daddy." My husband made a brief lame apology and rubbed his cheek against our sleeping son in my hands. I wanted to shout, "Don't touch my son with your dirty face!" But I suppressed the urge and headed back to the apartment. I never wanted to go back. From then on, I had to test my patience. My husband pretending to be a father. My mother-in-law pretending to be understanding and kind. Me pretending to accept everything and be grateful. My husband in particular was the worst. He wanted to show me that he was a husband I could count on, so he was always with our son. But he would wake up our son when he finally fell asleep and try to play with him. He would push our son to me when he had a dirty diaper too. If the baby cried too much at night, he would go to the other room to sleep. He would never do the housework. And yet, when my mother-in-law, relatives, or friends were there, he would try to feed him or check to see if his diaper was dirty. My mother-in-law looked at my husband with such compassionate eyes, it was disgusting. "You see, my son has become a good father. Cheating on their wives is like a physiological phenomenon in men. That's why, as a wife, you just have to let it be and believe in him." She said this frequently, as if she wanted to brainwash me. So I played the role of generous wife who forgave her husband to satisfy both of them. I always had a voice recorder hidden in my pocket. My husband becomes light-mouthed, and his memory would skip when he drank at night. So I occasionally got the truth out of him. The worst things he had said and done caused me nausea and stomach pains, but I endured them. I endured and endured. 2 years after I found out about the affair, when our son had finished his 1.5-year-old checkup, I got the result of my brother, his wife, and Nadia's plan. I had enough evidence now. Now it's time for me to strike back. After seeing my husband off to work on Monday, I'm going to call my brother and his wife. My brother, who took the trouble to get a day off from work, showed up in a big truck with a friend of his. His wife and I worked to pack up my luggage in a rush, and they carried them into the truck. The truck left a little after noon, and my brother's wife, my son, and I went to my brother's house. I left the divorce papers and my lawyer's card on the living room table. Around 7 that night, my phone rang. It was my husband, of course. I put my phone on speaker so my brother and his wife could hear too. "Where the hell are you? I'm not going to allow you to make a joke with these divorce papers." The first thing he said and did was shout, as if he was trying to overpower me. If I were alone, I would have flinched, but now I have an ally next to me, so that's reassuring. It's not a joke. I'm serious. I replied in a calm and collected voice. My husband was slightly taken aback by my response.
I have been a good husband and a good father. What is the problem?
If you're a good husband and a good father, I bet you can perfectly do the laundry, clean the house, and change your son's diaper, right? He choked up at my argument, but he still won't stop his pathetic talking.
You have no home to go back to and no money. I've got a better chance of getting custody because my parents are alive and well than yours.
Maybe you're right.
There you go. You're starting to get worried. If you don't want to lose Kevin, come home. All you have to do is get down on your knees and I will forgive you.
My husband spits out the worst lines like a carrot and stick, like he's taming a wild animal. My brother and his wife turned red as if they were about to join the fight, but they managed to calm down. You're going to treat our son like a hostage again, aren't you? Like you did when you cheated on me.
I can't believe you're still holding that against me. You just didn't have the strength to break up with me right after I cheated on you. It's your fault.
I knew it. You're so confident because you think the statute of limitation has expired.
What are you laughing at? Have you gone crazy because you're so worried? If you come back now, there won't be much of a punishment.
Hey, you don't know?
Huh?
I drop a bomb on my ignorant husband. If it's been less than 3 years since one found out, you can sue cheating. After the bomb voice, the silence continues as if time has stopped. I don't know if it's taking him a while to figure out what it means, or understand what it means, and is out of words. Either way, I don't owe my husband any sympathy. Bye. I will talk to the lousy daddy through my lawyer, and give my best wishes to your devil mother. Goodbye. As if rejecting the voice that shamelessly screams my name, I hung up the phone. I looked up to my brother and his wife, with their hands raised to congratulate me on a job well done. I gave them a high five with both hands. The battle would last until the divorce was final. It took a year and a half to get all the evidence I needed. Photos of the affair and screenshots of messages that were erased by my mother-in-law were all in the backup file that Nadia created just in case, so it was no problem. Furthermore, I recorded everything my mother-in-law said about cheating being a physiological phenomenon or whatever. The diary I kept every day and the videos I secretly took showed my husband faking a good father. I found out from my drunken husband how long he had been cheating on me and what they had done.
I don't think it's cute for a woman to get upset over something as trivial as a cheating husband. You've abandoned everything as a woman after you got pregnant with a child.
The voice recorder also caught awful moments like these. Naturally, my in-laws resisted miserably. My brainwashed relatives and their friends tried to persuade me. As soon as I played this series of rants for them, they all pulled away silently. Rather, they took my side, and some of them had a strong sense of justice. While my in-laws were begging to my lawyer, I managed to start my new life in an apartment near my brother's house. In addition, I started a new job with a daycare center, so I was able to commute to work with my son. A father who hurts his wife by cheating and can't take care of the house or child. In-laws who take their son's side and threaten the wife. A mother who worked hard to raise her child with the help of her relatives. The world was on my side. It took a long time, but I was able to leave my husband. Of course, I never neglected to punish his affair partner, Amy. After the baby was born, she came all the way to our house and said, "I'm sorry, I fell in love with your precious husband." What a surprise. She apologized though she didn't feel bad at all. On her social media, she had poems about how she was so sinful for being loved too much. Just reading them gave me goosebumps. Of course, I would not allow her to be happy with her victory. I've endured a year and a half since I gave birth in order to find the most damaging opportunity for her. Nadia kept an eye on Amy's social media posts. Using her friends and other contacts, she got information that Amy got engaged to her true boyfriend. When the time was right, I went to see Amy at her office with my lawyer. I knew that her fiancé was a competent man who worked at the same place. Of course, her fiancé was pale. Amy panicked and made countless excuses and meaningless arguments, but we ignored them and left. As we apologized to surrounding employees for disturbing them at work, this was all to give the impression that she was a disgusting woman who took the husband away from a kind wife. Moreover, it seems that there was other women besides me who were victims of Mamie and were looking for an opportunity to take revenge. While I was suing her, apparently the company received a content-satisfied letter from others. Her fiancé was disgusted and said he couldn't marry a woman so unfaithful and broke off the engagement. Covered in debt to pay alimony, her dream of becoming a millionaire was dashed. People at work look at her with a cold shoulder, but she can't even quit her job. Amy used to be beautiful and charming, but now she has no money to fix her shaggy hair. Maybe it's because she has no money. She has become more aggressive, so men don't seem to be interested in her anymore. From now on, no more couples will be victimized by her. I felt like I've made a contribution to society. 5 years later, Maria. I was eating fries with my son when I was approached by an old woman. I didn't know who she was for a moment, but when I looked into her eyes and saw a trace of the past, I remembered who she was. Ken's mother? It was my ex-husband's mother. A person can change so much in 5 years. As if she was pleased that I remembered her, my ex-mother-in-law's sunken eyes light up. I'm glad to see you're doing well. Isn't that Kevin next to you? He has grown up so much. My ex-mother-in-law looks at me with tears in her eyes while my son tilts his head. Mommy, who is this person? Is she the wicked witch? Hey, Maria. Kevin, I'm your one and only grandma. No, please don't lie to him. Your mother has passed away, so it's not a lie. But you don't even have the help of your mother. It's admirable that you've raised him so well with just your hands. As usual, her words and action are so off the point, it made me laugh. But you don't have to be so stubborn anymore. Go home to my son. He's waiting for you and Kevin without getting married. Isn't he so earnest? Isn't just because no woman comes to him? That's not true. I knew that was the truth. I can tell by my ex-mother-in-law's extreme aging and the fact that she still has feelings for me. At that moment, my son stood up looking very happy. Oh, Daddy, Grandma! What? A young man with a tray of dishes and a kindly-looking older woman approached my son, calling to them. My current husband is his mother. 2 years ago, I married a man who understands everything and took it all in. My ex-mother-in-law was visibly upset to see the exact opposite of the future she had envisioned. Sorry. There are so many stores I couldn't decide. Hi. Do we know you? Well, she's my ex-husband's mother. To my confession, my current mother-in-law comes between us to defend me. Well, it's nice to meet you. I've heard a lot about you from Maria. Thanks to you, I have a lovely daughter-in-law and a beautiful grandson. I'm so happy. My ex-mother-in-law can only make her mouth gape, like a goldfish at the perfect authority of my current mother-in-law. I'm going to tell you what I have been wanting to tell you for a long time. What you said to me back then was true. A child can make you forget everything. I have no regrets about Ken at all. My husband places the food on another table and urges me to move to that table to protect me and my son. I did not look back at my ex-mother-in-law and enjoy the meal with my precious family with all my heart. Mom, can I have some ice cream? Only if you can finish the whole meal. Yay, Mom, I love you. With a bright future ahead of me, I'm living my life to the fullest, happier than ever.